Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the My English Matters podcast. I'm your host for this episode, Aida from My English Matters Customer Support, and I take care of students' queries through Facebook, Instagram DMs, and emails. Now, have you ever been in a conversation where you suddenly felt like you had nothing to say? Maybe you're at a gathering with new people and everyone seems to have something interesting to share except you. Or perhaps you're in a work meeting and when it's your turn to contribute, your mind just goes blank. I've definitely been there. And let me tell you, it's not a great feeling. But over time, I've realized that having nothing to say doesn't mean the conversation has to stop. It's just a matter of knowing how to navigate those moments with curiosity, creativity, and a bit of confidence. So, in today's episode, we're going to explore exactly that: what to say when you feel like you have nothing to say. I'll share my favorite tips and strategies to help you handle these situations with ease, plus some examples you can use in real life. So let's get started. First, let's talk about why this happens. Why do we sometimes feel like we have absolutely nothing to contribute to a conversation? Here are some of the most common reasons. First, you're nervous or overthinking. This often happens in situations where we feel pressure to impress someone, like during a job interview, a formal meeting, or even a reunion. Maybe you're catching up with old classmates and everyone seems to have exciting updates about their careers, families, or travels. Instead of focusing on the conversation, you start overthinking. Am I saying the right thing? Do I sound interesting? What if I embarrass myself? And all that overthinking makes us freeze up. Second is you're maybe not familiar with the topic. Have you ever found yourself in a conversation where everyone is talking about something you know nothing about, like cryptocurrency, sports, or a hobby you've never tried? It's easy to feel lost and unsure of how to participate. Third, maybe you're tired, distracted, or just not in the mood. Sometimes we're just mentally drained. Maybe it's been a long day or we're preoccupied with something else. And in those moments, it can be hard to engage fully in a conversation. Recognizing why this happens is the first step to overcoming it. It's not that you're boring or uninteresting, it's just that your brain is having a little hiccup. Now, let's get into the fun part: what to do when you feel stuck. The truth is, you don't always need to have something profound to say. Conversations aren't a performance, they're about connecting with the other person. And one of the best ways to do that is by shifting the focus away from yourself. Let me share a little secret with you. I'm actually an introvert. I don't really enjoy being the center of attention, and sometimes talking too much can feel exhausting for me. That's why I love asking people questions. It's not just a great way to keep the conversation going, it also gives me a chance to step back and listen. And honestly, I really enjoy listening to people's stories. Everyone has something unique to share, and I find it so fascinating to hear about their experiences, their thoughts, and even their quirks. So I let them talk. So, my first tip: ask open ended questions. Questions are your secret weapon in any conversation. When you're not sure what to say, ask something that encourages the other person to share more. For example, "Oh, that's interesting. How did you get into that?" Or something like, "What's the most surprising thing you've learned about it?" Or, "What was your favorite part of that experience?" These questions are simple, but they show genuine curiosity. And trust me, people love talking about themselves when they feel heard. My second tip: paraphrase or reflect on their words. Another great way to keep the conversation going is by reflecting on what the other person said. For example, "Wow, that must have been a big moment for you." Or, "So, if I understand correctly, you're saying," or, "That sounds challenging, but also really rewarding." This not only shows that you're paying attention, but also invites the other person to elaborate. My third tip: share a related experience, even if it's small. If the other person shares something, try to find a way to relate to it. It doesn't have to be a big or impressive story. Even a small comment can keep the conversation flowing. For example, Oh, I've never tried that myself, but I remember my friend telling me how much she enjoyed it. Or you can say, oh, that reminds me of a time when I, and then you can share. Or, oh, I've always wanted to try that. What's it like? The key here is to focus on connection, not comparison. Okay, let's talk about awkward pauses because they will happen. And guess what? They're not as scary as you think. Here's the thing, not all silence is awkward. Sometimes silence can actually be a good thing. It gives both people a moment to breathe and process what's been said. I like to think of it as a comfortable silence, the kind of where you don't feel the need to fill every second with words. If you feel like you're the only one making an effort to keep the conversation going, it's okay to pause and let things settle. Some people simply prefer to talk less, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It doesn't mean they're not enjoying your company, it's just their way of being present. I'd also like to share something I learned from a friend of mine. She's the type of person who is comfortable with everyone, effortlessly so. It's like everyone feels comfortable around her without her even trying that much. I used to think that being silent was awkward. And because I'm the type to make an effort, even if the other person isn't reciprocating as much, I'd tire myself out. I'd be the one carrying the conversation, especially when the other person was giving me one liners or not asking me anything back. But one day, my friend gave some really life changing advice. She told me, just be chill, Aida. Just be chill with the silence. It's okay to not make so much effort with people who don't want to make equal effort. And that really stuck with me. Watching her interact with people, I realized that she doesn't force conversations. She's comfortable with silence, and because of that, others naturally feel at ease too. Some people can actually sense your vibe when you're in that comfortable, silent state. It's like they pick up on the fact that you're not uncomfortable or anxious, and they end up feeling more relaxed too. So, if you find yourself putting in all the effort and the other person isn't giving much in return, it's okay to step back and just let the silence be. It doesn't mean something's wrong, it just means you don't have to carry the weight of the conversation alone. Okay, let's put everything together with a practical example. Imagine you're at a party and someone says, I just came back from a hiking trip in Sabah. Now, if you're like me and you're not much of a hiker, you might feel like a little stuck. But here's how you could handle it. Ask a question. Wow, that sounds amazing. How was the view from the top? You can paraphrase the response. So, you spent 2 days hiking through the jungle? That sounds like such an adventure. Or you can share a small thought. I've always admired people who can do long hikes like that. I think I'd need a lot more practice before attempting it myself. Notice how you don't need to be an expert on hiking to keep the conversation going? Just simply showing interest and finding ways to connect. Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with a few final tips. First, be curious. Conversations are not about having all the answers, they're about learning from others. Second, be yourself. Don't be afraid to admit when you're unfamiliar with something. People appreciate honesty and authenticity. Third, practice. Like any skill, getting better at conversations takes practice. The more you do it, the more natural it will feel. Remember, every conversation is an opportunity to connect, learn, and grow. So, the next time you feel like you have nothing to say, try these strategies and see where the conversation takes you. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. I hope you found this episode helpful and encouraging. If you'd like more tips to improve your English and boost your confidence in conversations, be sure to visit us at myenglishmatters.com. And if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and maybe share it with a friend. Until next time, keep learning, keep smiling, and remember, you're doing great.